All right, here we go.
Hi, my name is Rachel, and I'm here with my friend Hextilda, and we're just going to have a conversation about some things in life that are interesting that need to be talked about, because there's no such thing as coincidence, and yet the synchronicities around us in the world and in our experiences are blowing my mind, and it has become abundantly clear that we need to talk about these things
Right.
openly.
It's time to share our experiences and the experiences that we have been gathering from other people that we've been meeting as well.
Oh man.
Which have kind of been confirmation, I think, for us with things that we discover, and then people in real life backing some of these things up. So
big time.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of it does have to do with Rachel's story and background. And I think that's kind of where we need to start.
So I am 44 years old. I was born in 1974. And I was born in Southern California and grew up in Northern California near Lake Tahoe. I met Hextilda a couple of years ago through a friend that I went to school with, and we just hit it off immediately.
Mm-hmm.
We went straight to all of the craziest subjects possible, and we couldn't stop.
How deep down the rabbit hole have you been? Yes. Yeah, it was very interesting. And that was October 2016 when we met, and it was very much an instant connection. There was something there. So and the further we started talking, the more interesting things started happening and kind of coming to the surface.
Big time.
And yeah.
And I kind of at that point I knew that my life was interesting to a degree. I knew that it was very interesting already, but what happened what happened only a few months later really blew my mind. And as our connection went on and I shared some of these things with you, and you urged me to make record of them, to write things down, to take notes, and to talk about it. And I was like, nobody wants to hear this.
Yeah.
And then from there, it seems like every single life experience was in order to slap me in the face and tell me that that's not true.
Right. Right.
that
people need to hear this. That it's a lot of, when we get into, I don't like calling them conspiracy theories because that carries a certain kind of connotation with them. But when you start looking for what's really happening in the world, you come across certain subjects, and you ask the universe or source or whatever for confirmation. And when people in real life come at you with some of the same stories and kind of some of the puzzle pieces,
just undeniable,
right, that put
connections and evidence
together, right, you have to follow that trail. And
right,
your life story was everything, had all of the connections to what I was learning about online through conspiracy theories and on groups. So it was, and then we started talking, and other people started sharing their crazy stories.
Right.
And we're coming to find out that
there are a lot of commonalities. And that's what brings us to this point today, and the urgency, even though neither of us really feel like doing this to a huge degree.
It's been a rough road.
It has been a rough road. It has been trying. There has been a lot of things, and opposition.
Yes.
Let's just say a lot of opposition.
We've experienced a lot of opposition.
But at this point, it is come to that day where it's like the dog is snoring. We can't even get a quiet spot. It needs to be talked about right now. It's time right now.
It's time.
So let's get straight to the stuff about what we're going to talk about today in this recording, because we are going to do a lot more recording tonight and throughout the weekend so that we have a lot of things. There's just too much to get out there. About, So today, what's brought things around is interesting because it's kind of one of these full circle things.
Right.
And it's one of the things that kind of brought us together. Some of the things that we talked about that you wanted me to talk about and kind of get on record and share with people had to do with my experience of having implanted things in my body that I didn't consciously consent to having been put there. At the time that we first met, really all I had was actually a lot, but I didn't think it was a lot at the time. It's all perspective, and and it's how many different pairs of glasses can you put on to look at things in different ways. Mm-hmm. And so this is where I think it is important to have people who don't really believe in this kind of shit to pipe up and be like, yeah, but I think it just could be this. Fantastic, man. I would please do have ideas and some contrasting opinions and possibilities, because otherwise we're not looking at things with our whole brain. Right. And it's about living with whole brain thinking now, because we are capable of it. Yeah. And we're choosing to live that way more now, holistically, in all ways. So at about 7 or 8 years old, I was visiting my dad. My parents were divorced at that point, and my dad lived in Southern California. My mom lived up in Northern California, and we had a swimming pool in the backyard. And so I was in a bathing suit every day, swimming my guts out. And I woke up one morning, and there was this thing in my leg. It looked like a piece of pencil lead or something. It was about the size of a grain of rice, and I just was astounded because it was so big to be in my leg, and it was clearly under the skin. There was no blood, there was no scab, there was no scratch, no abrasion. The skin was completely healed over it, and it was very close to the top of my skin. To the surface of my skin. And so my skin is very see-through anyways, translucent. So I could see it very clearly. And when I would push on one side of it, the other side of it would pop up and press on my skin. And I could get my fingernail under the edge of it. And I was like, what the hell is this? It seemed like I could just push it right out like a big, huge splinter, but it wasn't sharp enough. It was, rounded like a grain of rice on the end of it. So I was puzzled by it, but I think it was probably the same day, or at least the next day, that my stepmom noticed it and said, Rachel, what is that in your leg? And when she said it, I remember doing this motion with my right hand as if I stabbed myself in the leg with something. And I said, I don't know, maybe I stabbed myself in the leg with a pencil. But my mind immediately rejected the thought. And I said to myself, no. And so then I said, or maybe somebody else did. And I did the motion again. But my mind really did not accept that. I just thought, that's bullshit. I would know if I stabbed myself in the leg with a pencil. Who does that? Why would I stab myself with a pencil? And if I did, I would damn sure know it. Yeah. And And so it was just one of these things that was like, well, that's weird. And it just never went away. Never went away. And over the years, from the time that I was 7 or 8 years old, when I first noticed it, up until before I got pregnant with my first child, who's now 20 years old. And so it was before I was 23 when he was born. So it had to have been probably when I was 21 or 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I just woke up one morning and it was gone. And for all of those years, in that span of all of those years, I can't count how many times I tried to carve that fucking thing out of my leg.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had a troubled childhood where I did some cutting on myself and, like some traumas.
Mm-hmm.
And I can inflict a pretty decent amount of pain on myself. Mm-hmm. And every time I would try and cut this thing out of my leg, and it's right freaking there at the surface. You can see it. I mean, I used X-Acto knives and razor blades and tweezers and needles. And as soon as I got to it, it's like it would just disappear right in front of my eyes. And I could never make sense of it. I could just never make sense of that. But then in a couple of days, when the skin would heal over after the trauma that I caused to it by trying to carve this thing out of my leg, and it would heal over, there it was again, right up at the surface of my leg, like it never wasn't there. And I could not understand that.
Yeah.
I could not understand that. My brain could not make sense of that. But that was my experience my whole life with this thing in my leg. And, it was probably around the time that it disappeared when I began talking to my brother about that. And we had actually talked about those experiences and those thoughts and weird things like that our whole lives, but we had talked about that, and he actually had something, just, I'm doing air quotes, show up in his face under his eye, just with no entry wound, and it's still there. You could see that damn thing is a freaking hunk of something. You saw it.
It's a square piece of metal that's like in the thin piece of his eye. It's weird.
His bottom eyelid. You
like,
see right freaking through it.
Yeah. So you guys, so you said you started talking about the weird things with him at that time. Was there other weird things happening, or what do you mean? Like, well, just kind of in the world, or?
And we'll get into it more later, but I've always had psychic experiences my whole life. I've always had psychic dreaming and astral travel and a really deep knowing about things that kind of, just made me feel seriously alone and different in the world. And I always felt like I was being taken at night. And I didn't know what that even meant. And I hate throwing it out there this early like that even because there are so many facets to this that you really got to hang in there to see how this plays out and how it all works together. Because nothing isn't connected. Nothing isn't connected, and everything is magic. And even though I always knew it as young, tiny child, it's beaten out of us, and it was traumatized out of me. And stifled out of me. And I have always known it and fought for it. Anyways. So getting back to the thing in my leg that disappeared one day, before my son was born. When we met, I could have swore we talked about that, and maybe we didn't, but it seemed like it was an aspect to something because it was just such a big deal in my life, and at that point, it was the reason why I believed that the new thing that showed up in my back was exactly what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll have to kind of circle back around to that a little bit later, but, it's hard to stay on topic here because there's so many aspects to this, but, when we got together, at the beginning of 2018 to have just a small, cozy meetup with Steve Colburn, who was Dr. Lear's assistant and material scientist, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And just a couple of people. That's when we realized this commonality in a whole and completely different way, which is just mind-boggling.
Yeah. Well, we had gotten together because you were sharing a little bit of your experience with me, but you had just met Dr. Stivers.
Right.
And so I was like, this is a really good time to start recording.
Right.
And to start documenting what's happening to you, because
you can't do that retroactively.
Right. You had just you were still unsure about what was going on. What exactly, you were in a lot of pain.
So many questions.
And you didn't know what exactly to even call it at that point. And so, we had gotten together the first meeting, and we weren't too sure if we were going to record, but you had invited another set of friends and
who really just thought, oh my God, how interesting. We love stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she, who we'll just call, we'll just call her girlfriend number one for now until we get her permission to we'll say her name, or if she wants to go by an alias or something, because the world is very small. It's ridiculously small. But so, I had just seen Dr. Stivers and gotten some thermal images of these things in my body that I desperately, desperately needed some visual proof of. I was mentally having real issues dealing with the pain that I was in physically. And I'm skipping around here. It's a very hard story to tell because of the way that things happen. But essentially, as you came to record that meeting and I made the introduction to you and our girlfriend number one here. I was like, gosh, where do I start? Okay, well, I'll start with this story of maybe I stabbed myself in the leg with a pencil, because it tends to be where I start, because it stared at me every day in my leg, my entire life. It's not nothing. I don't know why. I know it's not nothing, but I know it's not nothing. I know why I know it's not nothing also, because it disappeared right in front of my eyes as I tried to pull it out of my leg. And that is not normal. And I'm not crazy. So, anyways, I just, we have to start here because it kicked everything off, and it made us realize at that moment,
something
this
big
is
was happening.
Big. What is happening here?
Yeah.
And so I
get chills.
I know. Because
thinking
we're
about
standing
it
right over there. And I said, so I just remember how, I had this thing in my leg, and I thought, well, maybe I stabbed myself in the leg with a pencil. And I did this motion again with my right hand into my right thigh, just above my knee. And I said, no, that's bullshit. Why would I do that? Maybe somebody else did. And I did it again. And I'll never forget, your eyes came out of your fucking head.
Oh my
and
gosh.
They were just so big. And you said, oh, I have a memory of stabbing myself in the leg with a pencil.
Yeah.
And you did the same motion.
Same fucking thing.
And your mouth was just
and even
wide
the same
open.
Feeling. Like because I remember this feeling.
You.
Right. It was like, it's such a weird feeling, because it's like, why would I stab myself in the leg with a pencil? I've had this, I remember having a dark little mark there, but I don't remember any pain. I don't remember, like doing it and then the aftermath of it. It was just this kind of memory of that motion. And there's a dark spot in your leg now. And I never tried to dig mine out, but I remember mine being there junior high, high school. And then I kind of maybe forgot about it and lost track of it. But, you know, just in the past week or two, I found it, and I actually found it on the opposite leg. So I'm just, you know.
And I think we found mine the other day too, even though I thought it disappeared. I think it just went dark. I think it just went deeper.
A little bit deeper,
But so when you did that and you did that motion of, oh my God, I have a memory of stabbing myself in the leg with a pencil, and your mouth was big and your eyes were big. Face. It was big. Her eyes were big. Her mouth was big. And she said, I have a memory of stabbing myself in the leg with a pencil. And I mean, her eyes were ginormous, and she did the exact same motion. Do you remember? And we just all three stood there, like in this little triangulation with our mouths open, and like every single cell in my body was lit up, and I had goosebumps on my goosebumps, and my hair was standing on end. And we were just like, well, well, maybe. But here's the thing. Add on top of that I have this thing in my shoulder that just showed up out of nowhere, you know, so many years ago. We'll get into timelines and dates later, but, you know, around the time that my daughter was born. And that thing is incredibly painful and interacts with my thoughts. It interacts with the people who I'm talking to. It interacts with me based on the subject matter that I'm engaging on. I mean, it's connected to me, and it makes sure that I know it. And it causes me it can torture me at any moment that it'd like to. And it's totally like piping up right now, just to like, I'm here. Like just that low electrical current of electrification in my back. And so I started talking about that, and you guys all were like, I have a weird spot in my shoulder. And so it instantly wasn't just, oh, I stabbed myself in the leg with a pencil. Yeah, all kids do that. It was like, no, there's more to this.
Right. The shoulder thing, you know, and how many of us chalk it up to sciatica, the shoulder thing, and this pinched nerve in our lower back. And we started.
Okay, we had to pause right there. I had to run and deal with something real quick. So we may have lost our place a little bit, but it might help us also get back on track. So where we're going to go from here is basically what we found that day, that the three of us came together and shared this commonality, and talked about, you know, certain sensations that we had in our shoulder blade. And over the next, you know, week or two, I know I was getting just nonstop downloads of talk to this person, talk to that person, ask this person, ask that person. And you and I nonstop for the next actually months of investigations and ongoing adventure. But really over the next, you know, 10 days, 2 weeks, I mean, we had almost 27 people, about 27 people, with the same sort of story in some way or another, about having stabbed themselves with a pencil. And now, or someone else stabbing them with a pencil.
And there were a few
and they weren't all in the leg, some were in the hand, some were in the arm, some were in the face or eyelid or something like that, maybe. There were some variations, but most of the ones that were in the thigh also had the sensation in their shoulder. Something a lot of those people actually had specifically said that the sensation was like an implant.
Yeah.
And so you've got the numbers on that, but
yeah,
and we can
kept
bring all
a
that
spreadsheet of the commonalities between all of the people that we knew.
right.
And it just, the evidence,
Their stories talking to them,
up, and
their families with military history,
yeah.
And one of these people literally said to me, after telling me about the stabbing herself in the leg with a pencil, and she eventually dug it out.
Yeah.
And remember, I said, "Oh my God, you did? Did you get it?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, what was it?" And she said, "Well, it's a piece of metal."
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, did you keep it? What'd you do with it?" She goes, "No, I threw it away."
Right.
But she was older than me, and I feel like, that was probably quite different technology.
Right.
Because hers didn't dematerialize like mine did.
Yeah.
And interesting, aspect of that is a video that I'll just quickly mention here that we'll circle around to later and, talk about more in depth. But the video that I watched of Dr. Lear pulling an implant out of a man's toe on YouTube, and he had it on live x-ray and he had it on live video. This was patient 15, I believe. And as he began to pull it out, the damn thing started dematerializing on fucking camera, right on live x-ray. It was dematerializing and he was only getting slivers of it out. Mm-hmm. They were putting it directly into the patient's blood serum so that it thought it was in the body. And the damn thing came back together. It rematerialized into one piece. Mm-hmm. And then within like another hour, I think the thing realized that it wasn't actually in the body, and it turned off because it changed color. It just completely changed. So as it turns out, patient 15 is Steve Colburn. Yeah. So, and he talks about that.
He does. Yeah. He has a YouTube channel too and stuff.
So that really gave me an answer when I saw that in 2017, at the beginning of 2017, after I had just visited Steve Colburn at his home. And I didn't even know it was his surgery I was watching. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know that Dr. Lear was his doctor. I didn't even know.
How did you know
Years
Steve?
I didn't know who I knew.
How did you know him?
I was introduced to Steve by a friend who I met at the Dolores Cannon class in 2012 in LA, in El Segundo, actually. And she headed an ET experiencer group that he was also involved in. And she said, when I was talking to her about this thing in my back and how much it was hurting me and traumatizing me. And she said, "Oh, well, my friend Steve could like do a scan on you because that's what he does." And I was like, "Shut up, really?" And I tried to contact him, and we talked and scheduled a time. He was about 3 hours away, and we got off the phone and the thing in my back broke into 3 pieces and spread out and had me on the floor writhing in pain and screaming. And the next day my clutch went out. Like I just never could see him.
Yeah.
And that was in 2012. So it was years before I could go back down and see him. And, in the meantime, it was survival mode. I'm a single mom, and I had to, provide for my kids, and it was just not possible to get down there. And it was a struggle to get there. Everything tried to stop me from getting there. I broke my foot, like, right after having all these conversations and opening all these doors, with people on this subject. And anyways, I'll back up out of that rabbit hole again right there, and get back to the commonalities that we were finding. This was probably in March of 2018. So, it's very hard to stay just on topic here because, as you can see, there's so many aspects to this that we are going to talk about. So. Everything is connected. But what really triggered this is that was in March of 2018. And since then, you and I have both continued to ask people these questions and bring people together. And I have clients who I'm always asking my clients this. And I have a ridiculous amount of clients with these memories.
Yeah.
One who, you were there, who's, when I asked him this, he said, well, no, I don't have a memory of stabbing myself with a pencil, but, growing up in another country where he grew up, he was walking home from school and a piece of metal just fell out of the sky and into his foot, and it's been there ever since.
Right. I think that was my favorite one.
That was my favorite one too.
It's just like these things are just seem so like normal to us.
Right.
Like, of course,
right.
And it's like it's not until we stop and really think about what is this really?
Right.
That it just seems like a strange thing.
Right. And I have another one that I feel like I absolutely know 100% is a screen memory that I've repeated my whole life because I have the memory.
Right.
But every single time I've repeated it, I go, that just sounds like a load of horse shit. I don't, if I didn't remember it, I wouldn't be saying it. I don't know why I'm saying, but again, that is one of the things that have come into play here. That is, I think, a screen memory that is, that is likely,
and we
cover up for another implant.
Right. And another topic for another episode or whatever is memories and overlay memories and why some people don't remember anything. Right. And maybe why people remember different things.
That's right. So, and just a sliver.
Just all these different levels.
Right. Because everybody is so unique. And when you delve into how this was presented to us, because we're about to tie in another aspect of this that that if you don't have all of this context, you don't understand why we're tying this in. But and that's so I've asked my clients these questions, do you have these memories? And like an absolute astounding amount of them do. And for them, it is a memory that did stick out for them, that was something that was like,
it's very vivid.
And the fact that I asked them this question has them triggered.
Yeah.
Immediately triggered.
Right.
And so it was about a week and a half ago that a client of mine, highly respectable, professional woman, texts me. She's someone who had this. I believe she had the memory. If not, she at very least knew of it. I don't know if she's on our list, if you can look and see, but at very least she knew that we were asking the question because she'd come to some meetings, and she found on Instagram that somebody had posted the question about, do you have a memory of stabbing yourself with a pencil?
Yeah. And
she sent me this screenshot, and I shit my pants. I was like,
right. Because this is
it was surreal.
It was a huge deal.
But my brain was instantly like, okay, now calm down. Okay, so everybody stabs themselves with a pencil. Like, well, this is not a huge deal. But I can't. In order to try and place that train of thought into my mind and into place, I have to discount my entire life experience and the context of what I experienced as stabbing myself with a pencil as opposed to what I was reading and stuff. And so it was a bit of a battle at first because my programming is very deep to normalize everything extraordinary in my life, to downplay everything extraordinary in my life and all of my trauma, all of my experiences, to not put them into place the way that I finally have.
Yeah.
So anyways, she texts me the screenshot of this and then all of the comments, and
right.
I forwarded it to you. I forwarded it to literally everybody that I asked this question to. And we just all were like, whoa, well, that's interesting.
Right.
Because
it was so weird.
Right. So then in the meantime, we have another meetup at my office, and we ask the question again. And I mean, over those last two meetings, like everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody
has
either they did it to themselves or somebody did it to them.
Yeah.
It's some variation of that. Or I have to tell you, another a new contact / client in another country that I received just in the last 24 hours, whom I asked that question to, said, no, but I did stab myself with a protractor.
Really? Didn't we get another protractor one?
Oh, we might
I
have.
think we had.
You didn't write the last two.
I know I've missed a couple. But
we didn't get the data on that in our little spreadsheet. But
that does sound familiar.
It does.
So
it does. I asked him if there was anything there in his hand afterward. He said no, but it was interesting, and it came kind of with this. There's this sense of, why would I do that?
Right.
Why did I do that?
And no one seems to remember being in pain. Like stabbing yourself with a pencil
literally
would fucking hurt.
That is exactly what he said. He goes, and it didn't hurt at all. I pulled it out and there was no blood.
Yeah. Yeah. And all these kids having like pencil wars.
Right.
And it's like, really? Like that? I don't.
Okay. And it's like, to a degree, okay, boys, I get it. Okay.
Well, but it's also
kids,
an easy
that's right. Which makes it easy to slip in there as an overlay memory in a situation like this. So this is where we're trying to, it's time to get this out there, first of all. And we've already been recording information for almost a year now anyways.
Yeah.
And we have a ridiculous amount of information to get out there. And this just was the trigger, and I'm being told that this is the jumping off point. We need to utilize this this subject to see if other people have other things tied to this memory. What are the other aspects for them? What kind of lives have they had?
Right.
I mean, people have more extraordinary lives than they realize.
Right. And the more we find out that we're all kind of experiencing a lot of the same things, it really adds to the puzzle of what exactly is happening.
Right.
What exactly is being done to us.
Right.
By whom, for what reason.
A huge commonality with clients that I get is they say they either feel like that they are a sim being played, or that they're on the Truman Show.
Yeah.
But that they somehow have been watched their entire lives.
Yeah.
And or watched but protected.
Right.
And there are other people who have had some amazing experiences psychically and visions and psychic messages and stuff like that. So hugely the jumping off point here is email us. We would like to know you have a memory of stabbing yourself in the leg with a pencil
Yep.
or anywhere else on your body. Sorry,
Yep.
that's just my experience, but or of someone else doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
if not, did this trigger another memory that you have that you feel like is valid to share here? Because we want to hear from people.
Yeah.
We would really love to hear from people. You can absolutely remain anonymous if you'd like to.
Yeah.
If you are willing to not be anonymous, we'd also really love that, because
we have questions.
We have questions, and we actually may have answers.
I think we do. I think we have some answers
for people.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Now that's going to lead us into another aspect, which is another commonality that we discovered a few weeks ago. And it might be, throwing it out there too soon or too early, but I think it's not, actually. I think it's the perfect time and place for this. And that is, there seems to be another anomaly that people have in common that is being talked about, that at least we found people talking about online after we searched it because of what we found, which is a scar that is at the very base of the tailbone, which tends to be at the top of the butt crack, kind of in the middle of the butt crack.
Yeah, right at the top.
But and at first it kind of doesn't look like a scar, or a lot of people go, oh, I don't have a scar there, or I know I don't, and or I asked my husband, or I asked my wife, and there's no scar there. But then they look and there is.
Yeah. Right. And it's hard to, I mean, you really have to kind of look for it.
You kind of do.
Yeah.
And it's darker on some people and lighter on others. Some of them look absolutely like a scar immediately, and some kind of look like a stretch mark, maybe.
Right.
Which is, of course, a scar still, but it appears in a little bit of a different way. Right.
Yeah.
But just a quick background, I guess, of how that came about was, I found Dr. Stivers, as you know, actually over 4 years ago, through a person that I worked with for a little while. He helped me to save my life while I was dying in pain, because I had a chemical burn on my eye and in my sinus that nobody could see, and it couldn't be diagnosed, and doctors in the ER were treating me like I was crazy, and I was on the verge of being suicidal from the pain that I was in.
Yeah.
I had just had a wisdom tooth pulled, and that wisdom tooth was fused to the bone, and so a huge chunk of my jawbone had just been ripped out, and it was on the same side of my head. And so it was like this perfect storm of, and I don't like to take pain medication. I'm not a pill taker, and Tylenol and Advil kill more people than anything else every year. Just not into it.
Yeah.
I usually meditate through pain as best as I can, and that was not possible. And the pills didn't cut it anyways. He was able to take a thermal image of my face and know immediately, oh my God, you have a chemical burn on your eye, and your sinus is looking really inflamed, and it looks like it's got a chemical burn in your sinus. Have you been around anything that was? And I was like, oh my God, I just huffed all this flame retardant stuff. And he was like, oh my God, like, yeah, you have a horrible chemical burn on your, and he helped me.
Yeah.
Like, he helped me. I didn't die anymore, and I didn't want to die anymore. And we had this amazing conversation about chemtrails. And he was this, mature man who just gave me this sense of comfort And he didn't treat me like I was crazy or like anything I was going to say was going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And we had a great conversation. And that was it. Years later, I realized, oh my gosh, I would really love a visual. I need a visual of what's in my back and these things in my body. And I had already tried to get an x-ray of it at my chiropractor, and this damn thing didn't show up on the x-ray, or at least I didn't know what I was really looking for and couldn't read it. And my chiropractor at the time didn't he really wanted to have an explanation for me. And I understand that. And I wanted him to have an explanation for me as well. But it didn't happen. Anyways, so that's when I realized, oh my gosh, I bet I could call that guy. Maybe I'll call him and have a conversation. And I had already gotten the confirmation from Steve Colburn at that time that yes, that there were some things in my back. I'm skipping around a little bit here, but this was at the beginning of 2018 that I decided to go see Dr. Stivers. And then we met up a couple of weeks later because and it's funny because I think he just happened to message me when all of that was happening. I don't remember how that happened, but it was like the timing was perfect. And I was like, oh my God, you'll never believe what just happened. And I had already gone and had a session with him, and he was like, holy crap. Yeah. Like
there's something there.
There's not just something there, but there's a whole bunch of things there. And yes, this is not normal. And this is a man who's trained to find cancer inside of your body by using thermal imaging technology. He can tell.
And I get excited about Dr. Stivers' background and stuff, but we'll have him on the next couple of episodes, and he can talk about all the stuff that his background.
To be going really in depth into his background and what his capabilities are.
He's pretty legit. So
for sure. He's pretty legit
about that.
And he's got a huge heart.
Yes.
He does what he does because he likes to help people, and he knows what happens when you irradiate a woman's breast and smash it in a mammogram. He knows that causes breast cancer, that's not healthy for the breast. And he can just take a picture of it without touching it or hurting it at all. And tell you if there's something.
And he can say exactly where it is and how big it is and how deep it is.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe he can also detect it sooner.
Yes.
Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but I think so. So
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. By then, I had already gotten my confirmation. I already had a couple of pictures, and he was interested. He was interested because he's had his own personal experiences. And again, we'll go into his background more, but he knew I wasn't crazy.
And he had also had, a couple of previous, I don't know how to put this, previous experiences. With anomalies.
The first person I think that came to him about an experience like that was before his career in thermal imaging. And we'll go into that story another time because it wasn't the one that was quite like this anyways. But the second woman who came to him was just at the beginning, I think, really early in his career in thermal imaging medically. And she had life experiences happening that had her feeling as though her husband was acting like her handler. And that he was keeping her, they lived on an Air Force base, and that he was sort of keeping her on base, and that she was being watched, that there were more people involved in this. And she had some serious back pain issues in her lower back, and she was complaining of back pain, and she thought maybe there was something in her back. And so he thermal imaged her back and found an anomaly under her in her lower back, that was not natural. And as he inspected her back with a magnifying glass, going, all over that area, he found that she had a scar, a surgical scar, in the top of her butt crack. And she had never had a surgery there. She didn't know why it was there. She couldn't explain that. But it was a commonality. And so when you and Stivers and I were meeting again a couple of weeks ago to do some more thermal imaging sessions, and finally to image you for once.
Yeah.
We picked up something in your lower back.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, hey, that's something there. That's interesting. Why is that like that? And so, we looked all around on you with a magnifying glass and got a little lower and checked out your butt crack. And sure enough, there is plain as day a surgical freaking scar in your butt crack.
Yeah.
And have you ever had a surgery in your back, Hextilda?
Nope. I've had my appendix taken out laparoscopically. And that's the only time that I've ever had any kind of things. And it's never been talked about. I had no idea that it was there. It's never been mentioned or anything.
Right.
It was, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what to make of it, honestly.
I know.
It's just we kind of looked into the vestigial tail thing.
Right. It's the first thing my brain went to.
Right.
We all got tails and they're cutting them off. Right.
Our lizard tails or something.
Yeah.
But the vestigial tails that we've seen on Google and stuff, they look to be a little bit higher up.
They do. They do look a little bit like more in the position where the anomaly on the thermal imaging shows up there too.
Right.
So, but I just
right. And it's kind of, it'd be interesting is if we're talking about advanced surgery techniques, it's a big scar. I think mine was 5 centimeters.
Yours was 5 centimeters.
Which is quite large.
It is quite large.
I don't even know what you would be doing that for.
Right.
So it's very interesting.
So,
but we asked, this kind of became one of our...
Well, because after we did you, it was like, all right, look at my butt crack.
Right.
Take a picture of my lower back. I did have the same sort of thing, some anomaly in my lower back in the same area.
Yep.
And I also have a scar in my butt crack.
Yep.
And nope, I've never had a surgery on my back that I know. I've never had any surgery that I know of.
Right.
I have had stitches that I think I know of, but again, I believe that is actually an overlay memory, although there is scar there. So something happened. And so maybe that part wasn't quite the overlay memory. Maybe it was the other part about how it happened or something. I don't, we're putting the pieces together there and we'll get there because it's kind of hard to talk about out of context, but anyways, so the other question that we want to tie to this is, how many of you have scars in your butt cracks? Because when we got home, you searched, and what did you find, Hextilda? The internet, when you searched for other people who were having this experience.
I didn't really, the first one was from a weightlifting forum where the guy was asking if it was common to see girls with butt crack scars. And I guess his girlfriend had one and he had never noticed it before. And the forum, it was kind of jokingly, aliens or tail, they cut your tail off. And some mentioned, some women have them in the porn videos and some don't. And so I thought that was interesting in the first place, was not everybody has one.
Right.
So what are we talking about here?
Tying this back just a tiny bit is the fact that we this experience happened before I was texted the post about have you stabbed yourself in the leg with a pencil, or have you stabbed yourself with a pencil?
Right.
I'm sorry, I keep saying that. But, and so I didn't even think to search that. And she texted it to us, and we had we asked her about that? I don't know if we had started asking questions about butt crack scars and having people investigate their butt cracks by then. Maybe we had, actually.
Well, you were on it pretty quickly after
I was asking everybody.
Yeah. And a lot of people
in their butt crack. Go look in your butt crack. And
more
my
often than not,
best friend and her husband both had it.
Right. But there's still some people who don't.
Still people who don't.
So, and we're not too sure what to make of this one. Why?
But this is certainly a bigger thing than stabbing yourself.
I know.
With a pencil. We're talking about a surgical procedure.
Yeah.
And that's not the only surgical scar that Dr. Stivers found on me. In the other spot that hurts on my back, that he found an anomaly under my skin that I feel transmitting all the time, that we got 3 different signals off of.
We got sound signals off of it, yeah.
He found how big was that scar though? It was
little.
Very little, wasn't it?
Not even.
It was not visible to the naked eye. I think he had to use a magnifying glass.
Yeah, it's little. I couldn't even. The tip of a scalpel,
right? And it's interesting because that one is next to something that that is most likely it's like a Morgellons fiber, only I don't know, that thing's weird. Anyways.
Yeah. There's other, we kind of touched a little bit on the strawberry mark thing, and with these holes, sometimes there's holes by.
Right.
I don't know, just different things.
Yeah. There's just so much involved here, and so much that we're getting ready to talk about, and aspects of this and experiences that people have. I'm a little bit about my background is that I'm a hypnotherapist, and I'm trained in both clinical hypnotherapy as well as QHHT, past life regression, which was pioneered by Dolores Cannon, who I got to meet and train under in 2012, as I said earlier. I also am a second level 2 Reiki practitioner, and I do intentional creation coaching, and I teach people how to master their minds and get in control of their lives, and how to do magic all day, every day, because you are, whether you think so or not.
Yeah.
You're just either doing it in your favor or not.
Right.
Because the world and people around you are doing magic all day, every day to you.
Right.
When you're being advertised to, when you're in the grocery store, when you are watching television, it takes about 7 seconds for you to be in a state of hypnosis when you watch television. When people go, oh, I don't know if I can be hypnotized, I'm like, do you watch TV? Because you're being hypnotized.
Yeah.
And really, if you have an IQ of an absolute bare minimum, and you're willing, you can be hypnotized.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. And we can all be hypnotized against our will, whether you'd like to think so or not. I don't like to bring that up because a lot of times my clients come to me and they're traumatized.
Yeah.
They are traumatized because this world has traumatized us.
Yeah.
We live in a fucked up, backwards world that begs you to pass your trauma on.
Yeah.
And you're basically shunned if you don't.
Yes. Yeah.
And so people come to me and their body is in absolute fucking revolt, and it can no longer function in that way anymore. And they've usually tried everything, and nothing has really worked. And we're all kind of looking for like a magic fix. And the thing is it's all these things. Yeah. And it's an understanding and a way of looking at things so that you can bring in new information and incorporate it into your life in a meaningful way and move forward using your own filter and not somebody else's.
Yeah.
because there is never a situation where you're going to replace your filter for someone else's, and that's maintainable and sustainable. It's just not the case. So I get a lot of people coming to me on these subjects with experiences that they can't explain. Sometimes they know exactly what's going on. They are fully aware. They are super psychic. They know damn well they've been tracked their entire lives. They know they've been abducted. They know they have implants, and they know what their past lives are, which are really now alternate realities.
Right.
And sometimes people don't understand that. And as soon as they come to a meetup and meet other people that have had these experiences, they hear their life come out of someone else's mouth.
Yeah.
And they're like, I've felt alone my entire life, and now every single aspect of me makes sense. And they just are, the amount of relief that it causes in a person's soul.
Right. Because I mean, we go to, it's amazing. It's kind of amazes me how many people have these thoughts and secrets and experiences that they cannot talk about with anybody else.
Right.
And they try, and they just get these looks of like, you're a nut.
Right.
You know, you're crazy.
Right.
And we're in a group where this is normal.
Right.
And now that we've kind of found, okay, we are all experiencing these things, now we can take it to the next level and start asking ourselves, what's going on,
how
and how do
why?
we stop
what are these
this?
Commonalities? And
Right.
Well, yes, stop this, but God,
aware.
more importantly, what do you want? We know, because of our experiences, exactly what the hell we don't want.
Yeah.
We all know what we don't want. And I know that the major aspect of this that's getting ready to come to light for the rest of the world is that how do we stop this is the, what do you want to create? You cannot take your focus from something if you don't put it on something else. So being intentional about how you focus is so important. And you know, it's hard because I have to dance this line where I have had my life experiences that show me that people have done things to me against my will. I have to come to terms with how do I proceed in my life and remove my consent and co-creation of that experience. And in order for us to get to the bottom of some things and help as many people as possible, we have to dance in both sides of this subject, where it's going to seem like we're going to be talking about a lot of things that are negative. And we are going to also balance that out, though, with what can you do now in your life? How are you going to move forward from this point? Okay, so I'm talking right now and you're at home listening to this, and maybe like, ooh, let's do some time travel. Right now, today is January the 18th, Friday. Right now, it's actually 10:12 p.m., and we're in Nevada. We'll say we're in Reno, Nevada. And you might be listening to this in February of 2020. And you might be sitting there crying because you're like, oh my God, how in the hell did you know to say this, this, and this all together in this way? Because that's always how it happens. And I hope that causes people to feel not alone and more empowered and in control of their lives. And I hope it causes you to seek out the ways in which you are the most magical being you'll ever meet, and to get to the bottom of who you are and how you create the magnificence of you, and why it is that anybody would be interested to stifle you in any way in the first place,
Exactly.
which is your greatness. Oh, yes. My big watchdog's protecting us. I might need to let somebody outside. Maybe I'll pause that and look at the security kit.
And yeah, and you bring up a good point, because it really, all of the bad, quote unquote, things that happen are because of how powerful we are, and how you know, we are powerful beings, and the powers that were have had to do many things to try to stop that. And I think that we're still waking up and we're remembering what we're capable of is a testament to that, to, you know, there's more to this than all the bad things that happen.
Absolutely. So much more to it than that.
Right.
And while we are constantly trying to decode exactly what's happening in this reality, it is fantastic to constantly be led to more and more new information that is so relevant and yet so seemingly unconnected and it just never is. And every single thing that we're led to just makes this picture more and more compelling.
Right.
And the most recent thing that just has sparked so much in me is the mud flood in Tartaria stuff. I have to tell you. We won't go into it right now at all, but I'm dropping it here. I'm just saying, because I hope mud flood. Yeah, I hope people do. Because man, the amount of psychic information I'm getting on that subject and putting into place in my own life is blowing me away.
Yeah.
And it makes so many things make sense. And
it's a huge puzzle piece.
It is a huge, huge puzzle piece. Yeah. This one's going to be hard to wrap up, but we probably should, so that it's
well, we should direct people to where they can email us.
Okay, so we'll be putting that stuff in the description.
All of our we'll put both of the email addresses in the description. Email us if you can some of your experiences with pencil stabbings, foreign type of objects maybe in your body.
Right. Unexplainable scars. It might not be just in your butt crack, but please do look at your butt crack. Or have someone look, because quite frankly, if I hadn't seen it in the picture, then looked for it myself, I wouldn't.
I don't know
been
how
able to
you
see
could
it the
see
same
it
way.
yourself.
So I think it just depends on each person.
Right. So so it'll be interesting to see kind of what comes at us from that. And then we have a lot more things to talk about.
Lots more to come. We're actually gonna stop this recording and start another one pretty much right away.
New topic.
And we'll try and keep this stuff as organized as possible for people as we put it out, but it's a hard thing to do because it's just so multifaceted and there's so many aspects, players and
levels and
factions, many factions involved here. Lots more to come, and we're going to be bringing a lot more people into this conversation in interesting ways and touching on many subjects that people will think, oh, how in the hell can that be related? But you'll see.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. Looking forward to hearing from anyone who's ready to get some answers and who has anything to offer here to share. And don't downplay your experience.
Yeah.
Your brain is
you're a part
designed
of this.
to
if you're
marginalize
this, you're
things.
A part
yes,
of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if you're this far into this recording, there's a reason. So say what you want to say.
Yeah.
The time is now.
Yes.
It's time for the world to change and kind of take back the creation of this realm, of this reality, and make it what we want it to be.
Yeah. I'm ready.
Yeah. We need to reconnect with the earth and ourselves. There's not a problem of like overpopulation and lack of food or anything.
Right.
It's a control issue.
It's a mismanagement.
It's a mismanagement issue.
Yeah.
And that's falling away.
Yeah.
Because every day people are waking up. People are calling me at astounding rates saying, oh my God, I'm having this massive awakening. I don't know what's going on, but I can't live like this anymore.
Right. Well, and we kind of know how to build the alternative.
Right.
So instead of fighting the old, we're just going to build the new.
That's right.
And we don't even have to fight anything. It's going to be easy as pie.
Yeah. And we have really many aspects of this covered. And any aspect that we don't, I am sure that people are about to bring it right to the surface right now. As they're listening to this, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I bet you don't think you have this aspect. And I'm going to be like, oh my God, how exciting. Do you have an aspect I didn't think of?
Yeah. We need more puzzle pieces.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. You're always leading right into what's going to come out of my mouth next, which is this people puzzle.
Yeah.
That I was shown so many years ago that I was an integral part of bringing together. It's just how I see people connecting and what the potentials are there. And so if you want to be part of the people puzzle, there's going to be some kind of a site going up for that at some point as well. But put people puzzle in your email if you want to be connected in that way and networked with other people who you feel are just like this and ready, and they may have knowledge or just a connection. So that we can get people connected properly. So anything that you think is important. I think another aspect is we may start to include infrared recordings of what's happening while we're doing these recordings, so that everybody can witness the amount of orbs and like absolute craziness that's happening in the room when these things take place. That's been another aspect. Like things are dancing.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that's interesting.
For anybody that stuck with it this long, thank you so much, and I hope we get to meet because I have a feeling we're supposed to.
Yeah, we're. I mean, now's the time for soul tribes to come together, and we're ready.
Yep.
We have lots of ideas and lots of pieces, and we're looking for the right people that are going to help us do
and who want to understand more.
Yeah.
Participate as much as you want.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. You'll be hearing more soon. Have a wonderful night.